I clicked the button. When I click buttons, things happen, and then maybe we're live right now. And we're live. All right, Keith, why don't you start?
This time, welcome to Keith and the Girl. I'm Keith Malley.
I'm Chemda.
Today's guest is the great Jackie Kashian. How you doing, Jackie?
I'm great. My dog will occasionally bark. Of course, why would the dog bark when we were setting up? Not at all. But now, when there's possible stage time,
I gotta say, your dog has pretty good timing. He was like, "Welcome, Jackie Kashian." Hello. Perfect.
It's almost like he heard my name, but he didn't because I'm wearing headphones.
What a great, by the way, those are headphones. And we also got you to work your microphone, and we got you to put on a pop filter. And congrats on podcasting with the Dork Force for 18 years.
I know. It's a long time. I thought you guys, I think 20, right? What do you guys got?
19. Almost
19,
right?
19. Yeah.
But anyway, but the point is, it's just funny. Setting up your mic. I didn't know if I was insulting you.
Oh my God. Here's the good news. I don't get a lot of my self-esteem from my podcast.
Okay.
Yeah. Who cares? Who gives a shit? It's free. Though everyone can send me money if they want. One woman sent me 10 grand. Nice. I was like, thank you. I would like that. Could you do that every year? And she's like, no. And I said, fair enough.
On the Dork Forest, you focus on the guests, usually nerdy compulsion. I picked hair metal. Hemda picked what? Food, cooking.
Mm-hmm.
It was she was pretty excited about my garden, and so we talked about growing and preparing food. It could be anything. This week is 80s action movies with a guy named Kevin Goatee, comic from New York, actually.
Well, I'm just trying to figure out, how do we get more $10,000 gifts? Like, was somebody's dorked him money?
Maria Bamford did an episode about money and Quicken and Excel spreadsheets. I've done a couple people who love an Excel spreadsheet, and there was one of my favorite episodes was with an Australian comic named Will Anderson. He just talked about Australian rules football.
Okay,
oh
right.
My God.
And that was super interesting. His previous episode 10 years ago was about cricket, and for an hour and a half after that episode, I knew how to play cricket.
I feel like I ask you this every time. Do you find yourself, are you ever fake interested? Like,
oh yeah.
Okay.
Well, I mean, the thing, it's not so much fake interested as I have to find something to be like, because some things aren't my jam, right? Like horror and sports and a lot of things.
Well, obviously, hair metal for one. I'll tell you that.
Hair metal.
Well, tell me more. What is a Janie Lane? I'm like, Jackie, we don't have to do this.
Well, right. You're like, am I hurting you? You are not hurting me, because I will say this is my interest is not fake, because what I am interested in is why you like it and what you like about it, because it is almost more interesting to me if it's something I'm not interested in.
Is that is that the secret of your marriage? Because you've been married over 2 decades now, right?
What we got married, it turns out, in 2006 as well, the year I started doing this podcast.
Okay, so you've been together for a long time. Do you think that you're like, well, I'm not interested in what you're telling me, but I could be interested in your interest, and maybe that's the secret to a happy life with a partner?
Possibly. I think
because your husband like gets obsessive about certain topics, right?
No, his worst trait, and good Lord, why would I say this out loud, being recorded, is just that he is very literal sometimes and a little didactic. But you know what? I could be looking in the mirror because I too am a little literal and didactic sometimes. So
I can't believe I'm saying this. Your husband doesn't recognize that he's literal, and whatever that other word is, it's probably nice.
Well, and that's the weird thing is, like, whenever we have a disagreement, it's pretty minimal. And then I like to say, one of us will then say, oh my God, our first fight. And it is ridiculous and a gift. I will say a little over a year ago, his mom moved in with us, and we have a very small house. And
I'm sorry, what a decision that is, because no matter how great your mother is, his mother, whoever's mother, no matter how great, we turn into different people around our parents, and it's usually not the more adult, satisfied person.
No.
It's usually a version of some of our sentences should end in mommy, and that's not necessarily attractive. This must be so nerve-wracking to, what are you going to say? No, but also to say yes and then wait and go like, this should work out great, even though there's not one person or not one sitcom that has proven that that was a good idea. But no, I'm sure it's going great. It's only been a year. How's it going?
Well, here's the thing is that it's taken about a year for it to go as well as it's going. Because initially it's been very difficult for all of us. Her life has changed even greater than ours, right?
Right.
And but it's definitely cutting into my sitting around time. There's no
it has to be a conversation, right? And
everything's a conversation. Everything is a task. I am working on a new genre of stand-up comedy called positive mother-in-law jokes. I currently don't have any, but it will be a new genre that will be chock full of nuts. I don't know.
What happened that she moved in? Is his father still around?
No. See, here's the thing about now, guys, come and see me. But here's all the premises that I've got so far.
Okay.
Here's the scoop. She is a gay lady. Her and her partner got in on the ground floor of lesbianism back in the 70s. They were married to
thank you
fellas.
for her service.
Exactly.
That's not but
That's not nothing. That's not nothing. Right.
No.
They were married to fellas. They had babies. They got divorced. They met literally playing softball. That's actually not
true. Oh
true.
my God, stop it. Leave.
They're a triumph of Title IX, my friends. And but they were together for 42 years.
Wow.
And then Fran passed away and Chris moved in with us because her health deteriorated.
Wow.
And it was just hard for her to live alone. She brought a dog and a cat. We have a dog. You've been to my house.
Yeah, lovely.
Yeah, it's 966 square feet. It's a very small house.
We live in New York, Jackie. We get it.
It's true.
You're bragging.
Exactly. Let me get this for you. Did you guys need a soda? Here's a soda. Right? I mean, you're just like, turn around.
Yeah. I mean, we were at your place. Your kitchen is in a separate room than where you are right now. So anything beyond that, you're just showing off. However,
you're right.
I do think your in-law moves in and somehow whatever square footage you have is out the window.
Right. It is hard. It is so she moved in and it was and it's fascinating his relationship with we've been together, it'll be 18 years, right? On the 8th in like 3 days. And the first 17 years, I swear to God, have felt like about 3 years. The last year has felt like about 18 years. Just because it has been a huge change. And we both had to figure out all three of us yes. have had to figure out how to live with each other.
I like that you're using terminology like it's fascinating. So I will use that also. Can I get an example of what's fascinating about living together?
Well,
you know what? Start with her perspective so you can.
Right. So she had a 3,600 or 3,000 square foot house.
Okay. That's
He had to get rid of all of her stuff and move into one room in our house and her bedroom, which now has what I consider to be our large television that we mounted on the wall and she has one of those beds that will go up and down, but she doesn't want to live in it. Right. She's like,
sure,
I can't watch television in the room unless I'm sick or not really feeling well. So she's in the living room in her lounge chair, which is a fancy chair that helps you get up, but it also takes up, it's very big. And and her big TV, our big TV, which we bought when we moved in together in 2004.
You still have that?
Yeah, it's 42 inches. It has the big frame on it. And so it works fine, and it is mounted on the wall. It's flat.
It's not you mean it's not a flat screen?
It is a flat screen, so it goes against, but it's on one of those
swivels.
Swivels, yeah.
Wow. So you got this TV almost 20 years ago, and it was flat screen. So I imagine the day that you guys got that, you're like, look at us, we're adults. This is high
Look at
tech.
us.
This is
$1,200.
crazy.
$1,200 for this thing. That same TV right now, $300.
Yeah, of course.
So right, and she brought in her 65-inch television into our 966 square. It dominates, and it has a tiny frame on it or none. I can't remember.
Right.
And the TV's on all the. We never watched the damn thing, right? We watched some. During lockdown, we ended up, like everybody, watching more television than I've watched since I was a child. And so much television was consumed during lockdown.
Yeah, when there was the strike, it was like, you know what? Maybe I need a break.
Yeah. And so, but it was, she watches Young and the Restless, Bold and the Beautiful, Jeopardy.
Oh boy.
And it's a lot. It is also a caricature.
I gotta tell you, Jeopardy did something. And I don't know how your mom didn't get sucked into Wheel of Fortune, but Wheel of Fortune and Jeopardy sucked in our parents so fucking hard. They will never miss it. I could see them being on vacation, cruises, like, I gotta watch my Wheel of Fortune. It's bananas, and Jeopardy. But
Two
yeah,
things she is not sucked into that I'm grateful for is she knows I will not watch the news. I cannot watch the news. I will read the news. Right. I haven't watched the news since the mid-90s because of the talking head opinions that crawl in. I would rather read the news so I can take my lice comb and find all the lies and make up my own mind. Thank you so much. And so I will watch the news. And so she doesn't like, she's okay with not watching the news. And then she also doesn't watch Wheel of Fortune. So, and I don't mind Jeopardy. I know Ken Jennings. Do you guys know that guy? He's very funny.
But no.
Yeah. Oh yeah, very funny. He's been on the Dork Forest.
Yeah.
His dorkdom, geocaching, which is a global sort of hunt where you find things. What's that? Treasure hunt.
Yeah, you find things and they give you like those long numbers, latitude and longitude, and you find it and everybody whacks off.
Super nerdy.
Whenever the mother-in-law moved in, did it take a bit to have sex in your own house? Like, oh, my mom's there. Well, we're gonna have to have sex, honey. So when do you get over? Do you make it a kink? And then how does it get to finally we don't think about it?
It is kind of nice to be quiet. When you're trying to make somebody make noise.
Sure.
And it's kind of sexy when you're like, no, you're gonna wake her up. And but she is vaguely deaf. So but the weirdest part of the sex thing is that the fucking dogs are in the room with us. And luckily, I don't know why, but they scratch at the door if they aren't, and I don't have it in me. I've never had a dog before. Right. And so now we have 2 dogs and a cat. I will say this, you hear how my voice is scratchy? Mm-hmm. I have something going on, right? So I finally went to the doctor after like 8 months of this. And he goes, that might be stress. Has anything happened that might be stress? And I said, well, my mother-in-law moved in about a year ago. She has a cat and I'm allergic to cats. And he goes, you buried the lead there. Let's back it up.
I'm not a doctor, but.
And he goes, that is stressful.
Yeah, that might be it. But here is also some antihistamine. So, because you might also be allergic to the cat.
Is it rude that she doesn't just say, hey, I'm not bringing the cat then? I understand the beauty of a pet and you know it like a person, but
yeah, there's no getting the animals out of her.
Right.
And I don't think, and I don't wish her anything. What I wish is that she lived next door and we could just see her every day. Because
have you thought about
we can't leave.
Did you guys think about taking over the house with her, of course?
Oh, her house in the middle of California? No, absolutely not. I don't know if you've been to Central California.
Okay.
It's not a positive experience. So no offense to the people of Central California.
Why? What? You're in the suburbs?
It's most suburbia.
No, it's you get 45 minutes away from any major thoroughfare in this state. You are surrounded by people that were educated with the flat side of a shovel. They're just not a bright bunch.
Gotcha.
And they can be fine. Obviously, I
Okay,
am
but how
from
much do you
rural.
talk to your neighbors right now?
Andy knows all of them. He
Okay,
knows.
stand corrected. I
Oh,
apologize.
you're not
Shit.
wrong. I am married to a person who is better than all of us. He takes the dogs for a walk and he brings an extra bag to pick up garbage as he goes.
Stop
Wow.
it.
Uh-huh. Hi. Try to live up to that.
And you're
Yeah.
a comic? Wow. How do you keep them around?
I have no idea. Here's what I've recently said.
This dirty
I'm a nu-
whisper sex must be pretty hot.
Yeah, right.
I
Your
am
game must be strong.
Yeah.
I am a nice enough person, but I am enormously selfish. And that will be my suicide note. So that is completely insane. So
Do you both know how to complain politely to each other?
yes, and the rule that we have come up with in the last 18 years is whoever has the meltdown first gets to have the meltdown. The other
Oh,
person
that's
has
so
to
nice.
support them.
Love it.
Mhm.
Love it. Oh my God, that's so good. You know, I've thought of this, and like, you know, the start of a meltdown where you just kind of see like your person needs food. It's mostly
Yeah.
me. It's me. It's like, oh, I need food, and I'm being like a little short and a little irritated. And you know what
Oh,
I
yeah.
found? Partners that just go, I'm sorry you're feeling that way. I'm done. Like there was
Yeah.
about to be a tantrum from me. I know this. And I almost hesitate to tell people the secret of this so that you don't sadly placate people, so that you nicely placate your partner
Oh,
with
right,
good
the dif-
intention.
The
Yeah.
difference between pity and compassion. Yes,
Well,
the
please-
Buddhists
please-
discuss it. Yes.
Please don't use this for evil. But
Yes.
if you
That's
see,
funny because when Kyle complains about something, I go, heard.
Exactly.
So yeah, it's a thin line that I don't know yet.
Maybe a little compassion behind that. Just go like, I'm sorry you're going through that. And I'm like, yeah,
I feel
okay.
seen. Yes.
That's it. And I'm like, okay, because you all of a sudden I'm not crazy. All of a sudden, you know, like I don't need to prove my point with my adjective. There's something coming out of me that all of a sudden doesn't need to come out.
Right.
I retract
I say, I'm sorry you're hungry and you apparently don't know where my fridge is or my cabinets or my candy ball and
So
you're new
helpful.
to earth.
Yeah, that Andy's like, well, we should probably get you something to eat, or he'll say, I need to get something to eat. When I
Right.
just, 'cause
Right.
I'll
See,
give him a hairy eyeball.
I'll do that. I'll say like, it probably best if I eat before I say anything else to anybody. And you know, just
You're not wrong.
I can see that I'm not even listening to what you're saying and I'm just getting irritated. So like maybe I should eat and then see if I'm irritated at what you're saying. Honestly, like more than 9 times out of 10. 9 times out of 10 easy. It's like I was just hungry.
Right. But yeah, I do like the idea. Like, just say it's how you get people to the gym. How do you get somebody to take a shower? It's like, I know I'm gonna eat.
Yeah.
I know that. Hopefully, don't look too much into it.
There is a rule that I'm trying to live by. If your partner says that you need to nap or eat, the rule is you should. Like,
Oh, yeah.
and it's so easy to be like, you need to nap and eat.
Right. You say, I know I need a nap right now.
No, you
Right.
could be direct. I'm giving a heads up that I will
Yes.
I will say yes to that. And if not, I know I'm wrong.
You have to be aware that they have a perspective that you don't have.
Mhm.
And if it's your partner who comes from a place of who likes you and loves
Right.
you and wants you to be in a better mood or whatever, they have a drone perspective that you don't have, right?
Yes.
And I was thinking about this the other day, which is I think one of the great things about our relationship as well, and about relationships that I have with anybody, is if I don't take myself too seriously. You know, like if I can
Yeah.
laugh about how just ridiculously, like if I'm upset about that's insane, calm down. It
Right.
lower the
That's
stakes.
actually
Yeah.
it's so weird. This morning I was saying to the OMAT club, I'm like, if I'm aware enough, I can recognize that I am taking things too seriously. If I can't find what's funny about stuff, then something's up. I don't have to change that. I don't have to laugh at it just because, you know, I know I should be able to laugh, but that's a note of note. If I don't have a sense of humor, we're like, come on, of course I have a sense. Then maybe I need to eat, maybe I need to sleep, maybe I need to walk away, something.
Right. I mean, I'm not saying if it's, but if I have that patience, if I can find that place
Right.
where I have some peace of mind, it doesn't it doesn't mean that I'm not able to confront a bad situation. It makes me actually more capable of confronting something that's real. But when it isn't real, it is relatively hilarious. It helps. It doesn't always help immediately if he laughs in my face, but it helps eventually.
Right. Yeah.
Because I'm like, you are correct. That is insane.
Right. Yes.
That doesn't make any sense. Yeah.
I'm going to laugh at this later. I understand it's funny right now, but that's all I have.
Yes.
Thank you.
You've met both mothers-in-law, right?
Yeah. Right. A friend just died like 4 years ago. Yeah.
It's, you know what? We were talking to a comic the other day, and he's in a monogamous relationship with a woman. During that relationship, nothing nefarious happened, but during that relationship, he somehow realized he is a bisexual, if not pansexual. And I'm like, well, if you can ever act on it, then, I want to be also, because it does seem cool. Like the world's hip, and somehow I'm not playing along. We put up the poll for our audience. Are you bisexual / pansexual? 30% said yes. And now, speaking of which, no pun, I feel like I'm a dork. I feel like I'm out of the fucking part. I mean, if I'm in a relationship anyway, and I can, so now I'm like, do I, the way somebody tells you they have ADHD, I'm like, well, do I get bored easily, and I'm like, well, I understand the difference between Brad Pitt and not Brad Pitt. But then I'm like, but I guess the point is I don't want to fuck Brad Pitt. Damn it. Why am I so square?
Oh my God. I love this time in our lives where you are making straight guys go like, can I be gay? Like hold on, let me think of Brad Pitt. Is that what you guys do? Hold on. I'm not even thinking. God damn it.
I'm thinking
why can't I just be a little gay?
And my brain is, I didn't even, as I said this, I wasn't even thinking of his crotch. And that's sad, right?
No, well, because he's very handsome. He's got regular features, even as an aging blonde guy, right? Which is hard with aging blonde guys. They tend to get a little craggy. And which is actually very handsome, I think, but some guys don't like it. They don't like.
But isn't it kind of cool, like like especially a generation before ours, when it wasn't so cool to be gay. Anything. It's like, look, I know these gay people. It's fucking awesome. Do you feel like I would?
I have to say, because I do. There's
well, with Jackie, everyone always thinks she's gay, so she kind of had the experience.
Right. And I was told that I was gay, much like many gay people were told that they should be straight.
Wow.
And so I went out and got drunk and gave it a shot, and then woke up the next morning going, no, that's not actually what I'm looking for. And the thing is I have made out with women that I've loved, and I was like, well, this is it, but I thought it was friendship. Like I am not great. So I am better today than I've ever been socially, right? And understanding relationships and how to do things. But initially, you don't understand like what defines a friendship, what defines a relationship, what is the right kind of sex, what isn't the right kind of sex. And like my husband has always identified as bisexual. He had a boyfriend in college, and he said he just wasn't very good at it. And but he does identify as bisexual. And when we got married, I said, "But now you identify as monogamous, right?"
Right.
Because I used to identify as drunk, and we all had to give something up. So there you go. And but is
that kind of cool? Also, is that kind of cool knowing like, my husband kind of, first of all, he's into everything. So that's, and picked me. But secondly, that's like a fun little thing. He's also a little gay.
I don't know. I like that he thinks that he's open to just being attracted to people and not so much parts, right? Like it's not necessarily gender or sexuality. It's both together. And it's sort of who he's willing to fall in love with, right?
Right.
Or who someone is, and that's the entire generation under us and younger than them.
Mhm.
I think
just-
that's the question. He won't be like people, I think our age and up would say things like, I'm an ass man, I'm a boob man,
Right.
I'm a, I'm and I
right.
think
and we're the kind of women who say things like, oh, he's just a little handsy, and yikes. So
The world grew up in a big hurry.
right, it got it started moving
got
real
itself
quick.
in a big hurry.
Got itself in a big hurry.
Right.
Back in.
Because I've also, I'm you guys, it's just a tour through my act, quite honestly, because I
Please.
have been also working on how when I was a kid, I used to go to the fire department of my small town and watch them clean the fire engines. And I did it because clearly I was raised in a 1950s sitcom, but whatever. But I was like, I would go, and when I was about 12 or 13, one of the firemen actually came out of the firehouse, and I was just kind of hanging out talking to a couple of the other guys. He goes, Jackie, let me talk to you for a second. And he pulls me aside and he goes, you can't hang out here anymore.
Oh,
We're so, and it hurt my feelings so bad. And I look back on that and I go, who was he protecting me from?
right. Holy shit.
Right. And I was
Right.
like, because there
Yes.
are adults who take advantage of older children.
Sure.
They're not babies, they're not kids, but they're not adults, right?
Mm.
I personally have never looked at a 16-year-old young man and thought, I bet I could trick him into touching my bits. Though I could, because I would have been the adult in that situation, right? And when it happens to you, and it happens to young men, right? And it happens to almost all young women. But it takes like 10 years to go, that was weird, right? That wasn't cool. And because it was weird. I know that young men are told that they're supposed to try to get laid as early as possible. But when you're 15, you should be touching another 15-year-old. Those are beautiful. Youth is very beautiful. You don't get to touch it.
Right.
You don't get to put your dick on the Mona Lisa. I don't get to cup the balls of the David as I walk by. That's why it's up so high.
When you see, just any problem any kid could get into, are you like, thank God we don't have any?
Oh, yeah, I don't want kids. But I have 15 nieces and nephews and 6 great nieces and nephews.
Yeah, I'm
Right.
sure their
And-
parents are like, and that's plenty.
Yeah, the jackass gene runs true. I don't need to perpetuate that. And I did briefly want. I had a miscarriage when we first got married because I was willing to have. When I met Andy, I was like, well, I would like one of those.
Mhm.
A tiny one of that. I'm vaguely interested in that. But I did childcare for like 10 years before I got married. And it's a lot of work. I mean, living with my mother-in-law is a lot of work. Living with
Right.
these animals is a lot of work. So
Did you try again, or are you like, you know what? Sorry, did my best. The end.
we
You know
did
what I
try.
mean?
We did try again, but I was unwilling to go through a series of medical tests. And
Sure.
I didn't want to have a litter. I just wanted, if it was going to happen, I was willing to do it, right?
Right.
And if it wasn't going to happen, I was also willing to be fine with that because I really like Andy. I really love him. I want to hang out with him forever.
It feels
And-
like the technology now is if you can't make a baby, then you try to do it medically. Now you get 6.
Right. And I didn't want 6.
Right.
I barely wanted one, but I didn't want just one. My sister and her partner really wanted to have kids. And Darla was like, okay, but we can't have one. I will not raise an only child because we have 5 siblings. And she's like, it's just nice to have someone. When Darla and I were little, so I have 4 older brothers, and then Darla was born, and then I was born. And when Darla was like 8 or 9, our grandmother said to her how happy they were when a girl was finally born, because then there was someone to take care of her brothers. And my sister, And Darla said she literally said to my grandmother, "You're thinking of someone else."
Right.
and Darla, and she's like, and Darla, when they had the kids, Darla also converted to Judaism because her partner is Jewish, and they didn't care that Darla and Sam were gay. They cared that Darla wasn't Jewish. And so the children are now 16 and 13. And I've been to both. I was at Noah's bat mitzvah right before the pandemic. And I was at Judah's bar mitzvah just this last year. And what an amazing way of saying I'm an adult, right? Because it's so much work for the kid. It's so much responsibility. Did you have a bat mitzvah?
I did.
It was a lot of work, right?
Well, here's the thing. I was already in yeshiva.
And she knows how to sing, so she's not really stressed out.
I already knew how to sing straight from the Torah. I was already doing other people's readings. I was already. I could actually sight sing from the Torah. So I knew the actual, like, there are symbols when you hear like, that's a symbol. Yeah. And so I knew all the symbols and how to attach.
But you had to write the speech.
I wrote not only my speech, my brother's speech, and my other brother's speech. And I wrote one in Hebrew as well. These are the things that I don't have issue with.
Right.
But my brother did. My older brother and I had a bar and bat mitzvah together because we are a year and a half apart, and a male has a 13-year-old bar mitzvah and female has 12. So we turned those ages at the same time. We had the bar mitzvah at the same time. So he did not want to give a speech. And so I was like, well, I'll give the speech in Hebrew because that's way more awkward. We're so used to speaking in English. My parents were like, no, he has to do the Hebrew one. And I was like, why? And he's like, it's just the bigger responsibility. He's male, blah, blah, blah. I was like, what? I'm comfortable doing it. He wants to die. So let's have him do it. We ended up having to agree because we weren't allowed to say no to anything. And you could see in the video, this is the best part. He stumbled through because, Hebrew is still, a different language to us.
Yeah.
He stumbled through reading it. And then the camera kept going. He mushes the piece of paper and throws it on the ground as he walks away.
Exactly.
And I was like, you know what? Fucking, that's how he felt before. Why wouldn't he feel that way after? Stop making your kids do stupid shit. We also, at the time, I don't think they do this anymore. You have 13 candles on the cake. They make you stand there for 13 candles for 13 different people to come up. And so we had to come up with like either rhymes or something nice to say, like, for this next candle, I want to say that my next door neighbor has been like a second mom. And whenever I call her, she's there for me. And that's why I say with glee, please come up and help me light candle number 3. And then we light it together and it's very awkward, and we kiss twice on the cheek, but once for some people because they don't know the tradition. And then, it's a whole mess. I had no issue with it. My mom picked my dress. It cut into me all night. And I just did what I was told.
Yeah.
Like the shoulders and stuff.
Oh yeah. I had because it was big and when you try it on for 5 segiants. When you're dancing around in it, the petticoats are everywhere. And the thing that makes the shape of the beautiful big giant. Yeah. It digs into your arm because it has to hold it up with metal. Yep. So, yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm an atheist.
So how did you know that you were a man? What would you say? There's a great scene in Tina Fey's book about this, by the way, about women.
I was not until I was 18 and had sex. So it's funny you bring that up. That's how I knew I was a man.
Well, and it's weird like that. I was 16 and my other grandmother took me out to lunch and she bought me a grasshopper. Which is an ice cream liquor drink. And I had both an ice cream headache and a buzz. So that's how I knew I was an adult. There has to be a better way.
But here's the thing, like the bat mitzvah thing, my brother turns into a man, I turn into a woman. And from then for a few years, I'm like, how could I turn into a man? But because they had all the gifts.
They get everything.
It had nothing to do with transgender. I didn't actually want to be a man. I wanted the same pass as men in my family got. I wanted the same privilege that the men in my family got. I wanted to, my brother was 3 years younger. Who gives a shit? And he got to go places I wasn't allowed to go because I'm female and you men will rape me. So because of you and your rapiness, and I was really, my mom was just really afraid that everywhere I go without her, I'll be raped. She wasn't wrong, but that's
you
not
have to
a great
live more
reason.
defensively.
Right. Yeah. So
I will say that you have reminded me of, because when
I'm sure
I
it's
wanted
wonderful.
to be, when I wanted to be a boy, was when my brother Russ went to college, and he said that I was now in charge of visiting my grandmother every Thursday. This is my Armenian grandmother. So every Thursday I'd go, and my brother Russ, every time he went, he would get a steak. There's a giant truck going by. I'm sorry if anyone can hear it. But here's the scoop.
18 years. It's okay.
And right, just won $10,000 though. It's not like I can afford.
Right.
So I got steak the first 2 weeks, and the third week I got chicken, and then after that I got like lesser and lesser cuts of meat until finally I said, "Why did Russ get steak and I always get chicken, Grandma?" And she goes, "Oh, boys need red meat." And I said, "I'm going to need an occasional steak or I'm not coming." And that's when I wanted to be a boy, because they get better food. They get, it wasn't a transgender thing. It was, I wanted to be cool. And because it was cooler to be a boy.
Yeah. I mean, boys get the word yes thrown at them so much more. And listen, I'm not speaking about society at large, although I'm sure a lot of people relate, but let me not say that. What I'm speaking about is my immediate family and my immediate experience. And I have a feeling that Jackie's not the only one nodding her head and joining along.
Right. And I will say this, is that I was raised more as a boy because my father was too lazy to raise us as girls. And so we got the same advantages and disadvantages as our 4 brothers. In the way of intellectually, the expectations were almost exactly the same. You have to get a job. You have to, I'm not going to coddle you in any way, shape, or form. I'm going to need a second source on whatever you're talking about.
And you know what's interesting is like what we're describing is for our generation and up is called male. What you're actually describing is just no gentle, no compassion, just like a very stoic, logical, but no warmth, no nothing. And I think that boys can use more of that growing up is what we're learning. And girls can use less of the treating them like they're lesser and lower, like that. Yeah. That too much coddling, too much. You're on top of me.
Right. And right, spread across all the genders of how you would treat a Fabergé egg. Because everybody deserves to be treated nicely, and everyone deserves to have expectations.
Right. Because if you're wiping everybody's butt, then that's where you can find girls, you're gonna have to wipe their butts, and boys, you're gonna have to wipe their butts. Just keep that. Similarity, like what else is the same? Everything. Until you're about 10, everything's the same.
Which is why every 10-year-old kid that I know, all of my friends, 10-year-olds, this is not true. I have spoken in absolutes. It is not true. Several of the 10-year-olds at 10, their gender becomes they them. Because gender isn't sexuality. Gender is how they want to be treated. And they want to be treated just as a stack of meat with a brain on top. Not as a boy who's going to be a man or a girl who's going to be a woman. They would like to be treated as just a kid who wants to read whatever book they want to read and play whatever game they want to read. And,
I was thinking this is news to me, because I thought they said they, them, because they want to be treated not like they're a member of the family. Like other people being treated, they, them.
They just want out. They just want out. That is also true. They would also like to join the circus. That's why it's called they.
How are your siblings dealing with the they them change? Do they adjust quickly? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I have 5 siblings, and so they are all very different people. Like my oldest brother is an evangelist with his own church, who's he's having a lot of trouble in his family because, including with me, because he's such a pill to fucking talk to. So it's very hard because he has got the meanest Jesus. I am not above Jesus. I have a perfectly nice Jesus. Good try. Keep doing that. Try not to do that again. Those are the things my Jesus tells me. His Jesus is like, well, we're going to have to burn you. And
we're going to have to burn you. Your Jesus is like, you hungry today?
Yeah, my Jesus is like, did you want a nap? Yes. Yes, I would. And so it is. And then my second oldest brother was in the Moonies and is currently an atheist. And
the Moonies are the ones that shave everything but a little ponytail. Is that
no? That's
Moonies?
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. The Moonies, Reverend Sun Young Moon. There was a lot of It was.
Do you mean Salil Moon Fry? What
yes,
are these
exactly.
people? Right.
It's Sun Young Moon was eventually jailed for tax evasion. Died, and his kids are now. They've taken it over.
Okay. The Family Federation of World Peace and Unification, widely known as the Unification Church, is a new religious movement derived from Christianity whose members are called Unificationists or, well, that's unification.
We're getting that.
They are not called Unification. It's them writing that. That's probably Wikipedia.
Were you saying that from a listener or you Googled?
Who are the Moonies and what is the Unification Church? The term was used by members of the church and even Moon himself for some time, but the church now considers the term to be derogatory. Pardon me. Oh.
Yeah, what if you just said a bunch of racial slurs and then it says as in very negative?
The weird thing about the Unification Church and because we had to kidnap and deprogram him in the 70s.
Really?
Yeah, it was like something. It was like an episode of Phil Donahue. Some of your older listeners might remember Phil Donahue. Sure. That's how my stepmother found out about it. Anyway, but so
what?
He is. Yeah, it's a long. I'm not telling it. It's too long.
Okay.
It's so.
Can we have your brother on the show at some point?
Yes.
Right.
Really?
Yes, and sure.
That'd be great.
Oh, he would. He wants to do a Dork Forest about it. He's done. I think 4 Dork Forests. He's done more Dork Forests than any of my siblings.
And I assume he has a sense of humor.
He's Phil Kashian, Prince salesman, fly fisherman, Lord of the Rings lover. He started smoking a pipe because of Gandalf when he was 40.
I love him. Oh my God.
He's out of his mind is what I'm saying.
I love that's great.
Dearly. He's easily one of my favorite 4 brothers. And
but you had to like put him in a van and
Yeah, my dad, my uncle Morad Jingosian, we used to call him Uncle Moron, and my dad Elliot Kashian, his kids used to call him Uncle Idiot. Yeah, it's a charming pile of cousins, is what I'm saying. And but the yeah, he is a huge hippie skippy atheist dude, like, and has always fallen for women who enjoy a peasant blouse. Keith. I don't know.
I think we can hang out.
There you go.
I think we can hang out.
Very much so. It's Phil Kashian, friend of the people. He's read Howard Zinn. He loves Bob Dylan. He introduced me to Leonard Cohen. Okay. Things are happening, sure. But I will say,
can I ask you what got so bad that he had to be deprogrammed, so to speak?
Oh, he was 19 and he had just been he had been sucked into the Moonies. He was always kind of a chubby kid. When we tricked him into coming back home, he literally was like 115 and he's probably 5'8". Yeah.
Okay.
And
wow.
So,
okay.
Right. They had been starving him, working him in the fields, and because they had a farm. And my whole family was raised to be salesmen, but for some reason he couldn't sell the granola. He was like, I think it was because I wasn't making any profit. And then he became a deprogrammer. Like that was his first job out of the halfway house. And
what was the hardest thing to deprogram? What was the programming?
That someone believed in him. The thing is what they do is they find people that are lonely or sad or hungry, and they're like, come on, there's a free meal. And he literally tells a story about how he was seated between a girl from a young woman from Wisconsin as well, and a guy who read science fiction. So those are, by the way, those are Phil's interests. A young woman and science fiction. When he was 19, those were entirely his and he enjoyed some marijuana. So
it really sounds like, as I understand it, Scientology a little bit. Is that a fair comparison?
Yeah. Well, it's all cults are like that, where they try to bring you in and give you a sense of belonging. And so then they moved him onto the compound. They're like, well, you can live with us if you want. And they got up at 5 a.m. and they chanted, and they only got to eat like 1 bowl of 2 rolls of gruel a day. I mean, it was like, it's a weird, and he was only in it for, I think, 11 months. There are people I met somebody who was raised in the Unification Church, because Moon married 100 couples together. One of the supposed agendas, and people can correct me if I'm wrong, but supposedly one of the agendas of the Unification Church is to unify everybody by a lot of interracial marriages, but very specific. You got to find a lot of white people to marry Koreans, because he was Korean and he wanted a lot of white people to marry Koreans for some reason. And so the couple that I knew, it was a Japanese woman and a Korean guy. And then he was going to marry someone Chinese, and they were really mad about it. It got really weird.
That's their line? Oh my God.
Yeah, there was such a weird, what it is it's a really controlling, and it's a lot of, tithing, very important.
How do you get them out? Do you guys act like you're construction workers? Hey, this isn't the person that we know.
And we draw a thing into the wall, and then he runs in like Wile E. Coyote.
Right.
And what happened was talked him into coming back to Wisconsin from Berkeley. He was
allowed.
He was allowed for 2 reasons. He really wanted to come back because he thought my grandmother was dying. She sold him that bill of goods. And then his younger brother, my brother Scott, said that he was interested. And Phil was like, well, let me bring you back.
Oh, interested to join. So go recruit. And of course, see your dying grandmother.
Yeah. And then once he came back, it was a meal where we all had steak, and we were all shocked. Something's
up.
Right. And then he, essentially my dad and my Uncle Murad and Lumpy, it was Lumpy. It was two guys that were installers for my dad, strong-armed him and took him off to a place where there were guys who knew how to deprogram.
Wow.
And then Phil did deprogramming for like a year or 6 months or whatever, and eventually quit because because what they do is they make you into a Christian. They just reprogram you. And he said, if they wanted to make you back into a Muslim or a Jew, it cost extra, because you had to pay for this, because they had to find someone who knew what those religions were. Wow. And everyone could Judeo-Christianity. Sure. Like Christianity was just sort of, everyone
default.
Had a vague idea. Yeah.
Right.
And now he's an atheist. Are you happy about that?
I'm unmoved. It doesn't have anything to do with me, right? My brother Scott, Scott's always been interesting because he is super quiet. I always attribute it to the fact that he had epilepsy from a very young age. So he has different timing than the rest of us, and he took a lot of meds. So he's a lot quieter than the rest of us. And, but he's always been a button pusher. Is most of my brothers are vaguely button pushers in
what's that nice for? What's a button pusher is nice talk for?
Jackass? Yeah.
Okay. Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
And just someone who wants to light you up and just makes you, just wants to say something just to say something. My father will say racist things, and then you'll have to say to him, shut the fuck up. And then he will laugh. And you're just like, why did we have to have this exchange?
Right. Is it people that don't know how to Ask for attention?
Oh, he knows. He wants all the attention. That's the problem.
Right. That's what I mean.
Yeah, and my dad used to literally, he would light all of my brothers up, and my sister, and they would argue with him, and he was like, "I'm just trying to teach you guys how to argue." So,
Right.
but I'm the youngest, and so by the time it got to me, I would literally get up and leave the room. He would say something about, how I remember once he said, dictatorships are good. It keeps people busy. And I was probably 13, and I just got up and walked out of the room. And so the next time he said something weird, he was just like, I'm just saying Nixon got a bad rap. We were in the car, and he was like, can't walk out at 55, can you? And I was like, this is just exhausting, Dad. Why do I have to? And he was like, well, tell me why I'm wrong. And I'm like, I don't want to. I want to believe that you're wrong.
But you have to admit they kept the trains running on time. Like, I know these people.
Right,
the human pieces of shit. Yeah.
Right. It's just, there's no need for a devil's advocate. The devil is high.
He's fine.
He's doing fine.
He has a new movie coming out this weekend. He's quite okay.
He doesn't need advocacy. He's great.
That's so interesting that he so blatantly tried to trigger you guys. Basically, he lit a match constantly and was hoping you guys have gasoline in your pockets,
or a fire extinguisher, and he was proud of both.
You know, I never considered that they're lighting us on fire on purpose. My father would light us on fire, and he would light a match, and I would just be like, oh, damn it. And then I would try to not respond until I just exploded. And then they're like, why are you crying? Why are you angry? I'm like, you said so much shit for so long, and now I'm responding to it. Then I remember this one time, because I'm telling friends, like, my life is crazy. Come have dinner and come see the show, right? So my friend comes over, and I'm like, watch how my father treats me. And he's being a doll. He's charming. Right. He's saying all the right things. No, nothing wrong with it. Like, oh, people are equal. You're born gay. And I'm like, you motherfucker. Yeah. And so now I make the mistake, because I'm a young adult. I make the mistake of trying to light him on fire, to be like, no. Oh, no, we're not getting away with this. My friend is going to see the show that she came from. So now I'm trying to light him on fire. Like, hey, how about those people? I don't fucking know. I really don't know what I tried. I was like, don't you have any opinions on how women should talk or anything at the dinner table?
Right.
And I guess it worked, because eventually he fucking
snapped.
You know what? I should have never, especially at such a young age, but you don't know better. I'm not going to win. He was like, all right, here we go. Took out the gasoline, poured it all over me. I'm fully on fire, crying, sobbing, wishing I would just die, wishing my friend wasn't here to see this, because it's a disgusting display of me pretending like I'm so fucking strong, and then having my father completely annihilate me.
Well, he installed the buttons. He can eviscerate any. Right. It's easy. It's easy for them to eviscerate us.
And then your friend thinks, like, you were kind of an asshole.
Right.
Yeah. She didn't, and she understood both sides of it. And, luckily some people understand what ethnicity outside of America is. And I think they see that. They're like, we know why your father's like this, and we know why you're like this. And so, all right. It's not their family. So it's like, yeah, of course you're going to fucking fight.
Right. And you have to find some peace. You don't have to, but for me, if I want to continue to hang out with any of these people, I have to figure out the things that I like about them and the things that I love about them. And the things that I don't like about him, I have to also come to a way to either accept it or to confront it and tell him to knock it off. And I think I might have even told this story before on this show, is that I have said out loud to him probably 30 years ago now. I said, he was making fun of my weight. And I said, you have to stop making fun of my weight, because it hurts my feelings. And he said, well, I'm just kidding. And I said, I don't care. It actually hurts my feelings. So you have to stop doing it, or I'm going to make fun of the things about you, and I'm going to hurt your feelings, and I'm going to do it on purpose as well. And it's what I do for a living, so it will actually hurt.
Right.
And he's
good
like,
for you.
And he goes, "Oh, well, okay, but I just, I'm just kidding." And I said, right.
What's the joke? Yeah.
Right.
I studied jokes, by the way. What is the joke? I'm
Right.
kidding.
Right. And I was like, that's fine. But if you do it, I'm going to hurt your feelings. And he goes, fine. And then there was a small silence and he goes, I was just kidding. And I let
these motherfuckers.
And I let him have that. But it's weird.
Good
Probably 6 years after that, I was in therapy for the first and only time. I love therapy. Everybody knock yourself out. But I was in therapy and I told that story to my therapist. And she said, and has he stopped doing it? I said, yes, he knew I was deadly serious. And she goes, I can't express to you how that never works with people's parents.
Oh.
She's like, it's amazing that worked with him. And I said, well, he knew that I would hurt his feelings. And she goes, parents don't believe children. And and she goes, you should be relatively grateful for that. And I say, and she was like, and stick to your guns. If he does do it, be mean to him. And
nice. I like that therapist. I did that with my mom. She was over and I'm a grown ass adult. And she said something about my weight. And I go, you know what, Mom? I have a mirror and I can have a scale if I wanted to. I know what I look like. You no longer have to comment on it. And she almost said something, I think, from what I remember. And I was like, I have a mirror. Okay. And and she was like, okay. Like it sort of clicked in her because I was like, that's enough. Like, this is not a like you said, why are we having this conversation? So, yeah, I mean,
I
we
remember
didn't
then your mom walked away and was like, but I was kidding.
I don't think we had a weight conversation since, but I'm not sure if we had a conversation since. So,
right.
Right. On a lighter note, let me ask you this. Did the
speaking of weight, Keith, what do you have to say about our weight? A lighter what?
On a different but still the same and a perfectly normal note, did the strike affect you personally?
Oh, a little. And it doesn't affect me while it's happening. It's a ripple effect because every actor who played or writer who played something who is also a comic is then going on the road. And then
there's too many gigs.
They're taking my weeks. And if they're very fancy, they're not taking my weeks, but the weeks that they're taking of the fancier comic than me, those bastards are taking my weeks. So trickle down stand-up comedy week loss.
I'm assuming you saw Drew Barrymore when the strike's still going on. She goes, I'm going to do my show anyway. I've thought about it a lot. Some stupid video she put
didn't
out.
Think about it a lot. It turns out she didn't think about it at all.
It's like, no exaggeration, a week, 2 weeks later, she's called a piece of shit. But then they're like, okay, we decided that the strike is over. We're at the negotiating table. And she's like, God damn it. If I didn't just fucking wait. But yes, of course, what she did was wrong. And now that everybody's going back to work, her writers are not coming back to work. They're like, fuck you.
I thought she backpedaled, didn't she?
She backpedaled, and now she's like, okay, but now I can do it because everybody's doing it. And the writers aren't going to come back. At least 3 of them.
Oh, 3 of them were like, on that note, we don't like that you were willing to sell us out.
Yes, that I'm outside the fucking studio with a picket sign, and you're walking through me going, stay strong, guys.
Did that happen with Bill Maher too, or
Bill Maher got backlash and knew not to do it after all.
No. Well, he said he was going to do it too, and then he backpedaled as well and said he wasn't going to do it.
But he never
his
really
writers.
That I don't know, but I don't. Did he do shows as opposed to Drew Barrymore, who did a lot of shows?
I don't think she actually did shows. Did she?
Yes.
Oh, I did not. I did not notice that.
In its 4th season debut, the 4th season debut was without striking writers. A week later, after Barrymore faced backlash and at least a few panic guest cancellations, that makes sense, she revealed that she'd be reversing course, pausing the show's return until the WGA strike concluded.
Oh.
But with the strike over, the three main writers, and they combine these three women, call themselves co-head writers. Chelsea White, who we know, Chemda, Christina Kinnan, and Liz Coe have declined an offer to return with it. The production is now interviewing new writers.
Oh, well, let me tell Lori Kilmartin, who is looking for work.
Right. The trio of women who shared the title co-head writer and have been with the series since season 1. Again, this is season 4. Could be seen picketing outside of Drew's Manhattan studio on multiple days. One sign said, Drew's News strikes. So I guess she has a segment called Drew's News. They found out that, September 11th was the show's first day back in production. They told the Hollywood Reporter that they found out Drew returning not from their boss or colleagues, but rather from an audience ticket giveaway that was posted on social media.
Yeah.
It's a bummer to hear. Chelsea White said it's a bummer to hear that the show is going back because it sends a message that union raiders are not valuable.
Oh, yeah. She did it. She did it.
Asked at the time whether they plan to return to the show once the strike was resolved, White said, maybe no comment. And the answer is
maybe no comment.
That's so tough to do. Getting a writer's job is really amazing. And now everyone's back to working. So there's probably not much open.
Right.
So you're stepping down, and all praises them and
for sticking to their guns like that. That's amazing.
Yeah, but that's not, I don't know.
Right.
You're good message, good on you, and you're just suffering, because I was gonna say those two shows, what's her face?
Drew
Barrymore and what's his face? Bill Maher. Those are different shows that I imagine have different writers. Whereas Drew Barrymore's writers are probably more sensitive to people in general and to each other and to themselves. I imagine Bill Maher's are more edgy and button pushy as writers.
I see that, yeah.
So I don't know that they would quit because of some moral decision that Bill Maher was trying to have, whereas
I'm surprised that there's any moral high ground at all with I opened for Bill Maher once. It was dumb. He it was at Cobb's in San Francisco, and it was a Sunday. Yeah, it was a Sunday night show, and he filled the room, and it was beautiful. He did probably an hour, and 40 of it was very funny, and 20 of it, the last 20 minutes, was literally him going, "You can't make me get married. You can't." And I was looking at Andy going, "Who's making him get married?"
Right. You're not George Clooney.
Right. And
no one's concerned.
There's no shotgun wedding. You and your and he had this posse of people, right? He had like an entourage. And before the show, I was up in the green room, just sitting there like you do. And he comes up with all of his people, and I go up and introduce myself, and I'm like, "Jackie Kashian, anything you want me to say about you?" And he shakes my hand and he goes, "Are you gonna need to be in this room?"
Whoa.
And I said, "The green room?" And he goes, "Yeah, I kind of like to be alone." I'm not even kidding. 6-8 people around him. And I go, "No, there's a coat rack downstairs. I can just hang out down there." He didn't even hear me. He just goes, "Great, thanks a lot." And so I go downstairs. And so he was a tool. He was a bit of a piece of work.
Good to know, because in general, I do like a show, and then I see some stupid opinion about the Barbie movie of all things, and and then some other weird thing. And then this writer's strike that he was gonna break comes out, and then of course this story. Yeah, I don't think I like the guy. He would have to be your dad to have to like that guy, right?
Because you'd have to.
And he doesn't even like his dad.
And I hate my dad. Yeah.
Oh, there you go. So yeah, you would have to find, because he says things that are almost right. Have you ever heard Dana Gould's joke about how his dad is almost right, and then he fucks it up?
No, but he's hilarious.
It's on, Dana Gould's amazing. It's on his reels. Just go watch a bunch of stand up on Dana Gould's reels, and it's very funny.
I own this. Troy said Drew Barrymore, and the Raiders were like, "Okay, heard. You own it. Okay, fine, good."
All right.
After mounting blowback, Barrymore updated fans. I've listened to everyone. I'm making the decision to pause the show's premiere. So maybe I'm mistaken. Maybe there was no actual show until the strike is over. I have no words to express my deepest apologies. So you could be correct, but she's still an asshole.
Right. Well, they're both assholes, but to my knowledge, because they were both going to go forward, and then she got more blowback than he did, and so he was like, he saw which way the wind was blowing. There's a lot of wind analogies here, and then
why couldn't he wait longer? Just wait longer. Like she said, I'm going to do it the next day. Basically, he's like, yeah, okay, we're doing it. Then I'll do it. They all go to her, fuck you. And he goes, you know what? I decided it's best to be on the Raiders side. Yeah. So he's a little puss.
But is it weird? I wouldn't fault them if nobody quit and everybody just went back to their job. It's your job.
Sure.
I wouldn't fault
that's fine.
Because Drew Barrymore, the host, is kind of a dick and like maybe just for a moment. Is she a dick all the time, or did she have a blip? Can I just say it feels like a blip, and it feels like
a blip, but she was the one on Oprah Winfrey during it was the 2004 election, I believe. George W. Bush and John Kerry. It was the year that P. Diddy, I don't know what he was called then, had his vote or die t-shirts. To try to get people excited about kids excited about voting, but Drew Barrymore came on with Cameron Diaz. Maybe they were doing Charlie's Angels, right? And they're admitting we don't know how to vote. We've never voted before, like that. And they think they're doing a public service. It's like, no, you just look like a fucking idiot. What the you don't know how to literally vote.
Went away?
What's that?
Is that when you went away from any sort of fandom you might have had of Drew Barrymore?
No, I hear it. Well, Firestarter.
Did you like her in E.T.?
She wasn't bad in E.T.
Here's the thing about that. I totally get it. It was a very, very awkward Oprah interview. It was them finding a way to be intelligent and intellectuals in their ignorance. But they were also putting themselves out there. I do believe they got people more knowledgeable about voting and stuff like that. And it was a big campaign.
Oh, yeah. They made people more knowledgeable. You hit a check mark on a piece of paper. They became more knowledgeable.
But some
people don't know.
Right.
I was raised with I had to pick in 1972. I was 7. I was made by my family that I had to pick who I was voting for president. Uh-huh. And of course I picked McGovern because that's what I'm like, giant crystal clutcher. But but some people are raised without any knowledge of, first of all, how to fill out like a job application, how to vote, how to make a bank account, how to do like really basic things where you're like, I used to make fun of it until I taught Head Start for like 6 weeks. I taught Head Start, and I learned more than these kids did, except for that because I was 23. I was fresh out of college, and I had to teach these kids how to fill out job interview stuff and how to get a driver's license, and just how to use.
A lot of times people need to know how to eat in a public restaurant, how to order food, things like that when you're not around it. It's weird. It's weird what you have to look. All I'm saying is to not forgive them for that. That is the only thing that they did, and to always go back to that as an embarrassment.
Does he go back?
This is not the first time. And this is like 20 years ago, to not let them go on this thing that they were fully great intentions on doing, and they're so pretty, and all you see is pretty. And I get it, but like to not be able to give them a slight pass just let that go.
You're completely misunderstanding. This isn't Drew Barrymore's defense. She's a moron. This is her defense. Cut her a break.
I don't think
she's a full-blown idiot. No, she's not. She just didn't know how to vote. Do you know why Lucy Liu wasn't there? She didn't know how
to vote 20 years ago. She didn't know how to vote.
Way back then, right?
And it turns out she probably knows how to vote now.
Please don't make me defend these three beautiful fucking privileged superstars. But here it goes. It wasn't that they didn't know how to vote. Is that they didn't understand the system fully. They didn't know the difference between electoral and whatever, like that kind of stuff. They didn't know about
the Electoral College.
The whole thing. Like they didn't understand the background.
Do they think it's an actual college? These idiots. You know what? This is a true story. They tried to get Lucy Liu, who's the third Charlie's Angels. They're like, do you want to come and talk about how we don't know how to vote? And she's like, I know how to vote. Really? But aren't you Chinese? It's like, I was born in Queens, bitch. And now they're not talking to each other.
Look forward to Keith's TED Talk of how the Electoral College works, by the way.
Well, you know what? I'll tell you that in high school, I said, I think the Electoral College is stupid. I might as well ask Dad, like, how do we know there is a Jesus, But I'm like, isn't this kind of dumb? Shouldn't it go by popular vote? It's like, it makes sense. And that's the dumbest question I ever heard. That's my civics teacher. And I'm like,
your teacher didn't even know. Your teacher
that's
didn't even know.
That's why you didn't know. That's why you got that answer.
Your teacher didn't know how to answer that question. Didn't know what it means. Didn't know why you think it's stupid. Couldn't argue with a child and bring them to Jesus in this answer. What the fuck? You're a civics teacher and you don't know how to explain why it's better or worse or indifferent? Okay.
Right.
Then Carmen Diaz, is that the name? She gets a pass.
Yeah. And Drew Barrymore. Carmen Diaz doesn't get a pass for that weird.
Does Cameron?
Role, Cameron Diaz.
One of the Diaz's.
Whatever it is.
The Diaz family in general.
Who wrote the Nobel, The Road? Who wrote that?
I don't know.
Come on.
Okay.
I hear you.
Nobel Prize, whatever. He wrote his first.
Peace to his family, too.
Oh, thoughts and prayers.
Right. He wrote his first screenplay and he
Cormac McCarthy.
That's it. Cormac McCarthy wrote a movie that Cameron Diaz was in. Cameron Diaz was in. And she literally does the splits and fucks a windshield in the movie. And
all right.
And that's when I turned it off. So that's the worst thing I have to say about Cameron Diaz. She should have stood up for herself and said, I'm not doing this in this movie.
Oh, well, that's where a lot of people start in that point.
Quite honestly, I think people are leaving this show right now to go look that up. You knock yourself out, ladies and gentlemen.
She literally didn't know how to drive a car. And she thought by masturbating on the hood.
See, I was told this by my high school English teacher, because I used to make fun of, like, I was like, anybody can go to college, and my high school English teacher was like, you literally have to shut up, Jackie, because it's hard to go to college. And I look back at it, the only reason I went to college is because my three oldest brothers didn't want to go to college. My brother Phil, the print salesman in Mooney, he wanted to be a drug dealer of repute. That was his dream when he was in high school. He wanted to be a very powerful drug dealer.
All right.
Mm-hmm. And
that's a businessman, right? Entrepreneur.
Right. Sure. He sold printing for 40 years.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's she was like, it isn't easy. And the only reason, because my brother Russ went to college. He was the first kid in our family to go to college, and it took so much. He had to fight every step of the way to take college prep courses, because it's like Stand By Me, right? Where they wouldn't let him take college prep courses, math and English and science, because they're like, no, you should take shop. You're going to work at Basira Ziri. You're going to work at the factory. And he's like, I'm going to college. I need to be able to take algebra and trigonometry and geometry so I can get into college. And they're like, no. And he's like, I'm taking it. You're letting me take it. And so he fought that fight. And then my sister, she was like, I'm going to college. And the same counselor, because our last name is the same, was like, no, your family doesn't go to college.
The counselor. Wow.
Right. And Darla was like, I'm taking trig. I'm taking chemistry. Leave me alone. And so by the time I got to high school, I was like, I want to take shop and art. And they're like, no, you're taking trig and chemistry. And I was like, your family goes to college. And I was like, I don't want to go to college.
That's huge. When I told my mom I wanted to go away for college, she goes, you don't go to sleepover. You sleep here. So that was the end of that. Robinson is saying, quote, my three oldest brothers Tell me you're Armenian without telling me you're Armenian.
Each princess, how's it going?
Could we also from now on call her Carmen Diaz?
Yes, just so that nobody.
All right,
How
listen.
much-
Go ahead.
How much longer are we doing this?
We're done. We're done. We're
wrapping.
saying goodbye right now. You
Oh, it's
made
happening.
it longer just now. You did that.
My washing machine broke yesterday, and my guy's coming by to fix the washer.
Okay,
Let's talk about a quality problem, you guys.
By the way, she has a new special out. Jackie
Mhm.
does, called Looking Back. And you guys love stages so much. You can't stop this disease of doing stand-up, right? You're like, I'm going to turn on my car in reverse. That camera comes on, and I'm going to tell 10 minutes of car jokes. You guys can't help yourself. It's on her website, Looking Back.
I'm telling jokes into the ass camera of a Mazda 6 in reverse.
Yes.
10 minutes of car jokes, you guys.
JackieKashian.com, and of course her stand-up's fantastic. That's wherever you get
Thank you,
your shit
sir.
from. Absolutely. I think that's everything. Anything else the people should know, Jackie?
Well, yeah, no.
Okay.
Just go there and look and find out if I'm in your town doing stand-up, and for the love of God, come. And then I have a couple of podcasts, but everybody knows that. And
Here's what you do.
Your fans are great. They're really nice to me. So
The Jackie and Lori show, the podcast, Lori Kilmartin has been on our show. She's fantastic. You guys do a great job. The Dork Forest, we're celebrating 18 years. And the show's very good. It is funny how sometimes I can't tell if the word is placating the guest or whatever. Like Jackie's the kind of person that would be like, when's the Super Bowl? Who's playing the Super Bowl? You'd be like Usher, and she's Rusher is going to play. No, Usher. They're going to have the Usher play when is halftime? Is that like quarter through?
What you're saying
your
is that I'm the Drew Barrymore of podcasting. The Dork Forest. I don't know. I don't have to know the thing that you like. You're going to tell me
co-host
about
said
it.
Carmen Diaz, and I'm still not sure how I'm wrong, but I know I am. So don't worry about it.
No, I'm telling you, I like who I like. I'm just saying
yeah.
that's how good of a job you do, Jackie.
Yeah, it's. I'm just saying. You tell me about how much you like country music from the '90s, and I'll be like, "What's that song where they die and then the postcard comes from heaven?" That one made me cry, and then they know what the hell I'm talking about, and then they get to talk about It's what I'm saying.
I'm gonna do a Dork
cheerful
Forest.
hour.
I'm
Yes,
gonna do
please.
Dork Forest on Carmen Diaz. Just look out for it.
You guys can
Right
never
now.
change your name, but you know all the
Please.
facts and ages and dates. I'm not exaggerating. When my episode was on hair metal, and Jackie's like, so the crew is motley, you say? I'm like, Jackie, what is happening here?
I was like, what's the difference between, I remember asking what the difference between heavy metal and hair metal was, and what the difference between speed metal and death metal and all of that. I mean, that's a real question, right?
Sure, and it's been at least a decade. What music have you checked out since?
I have recently bought the soundtrack to the Barbie.
Oh, that is hair metal.
movie.
That is hair.
True.
And I bought the soundtrack to Black Panther, and I bought the soundtrack to Frozen 2. Hi guys, I bought some soundtracks.
Yeah,
Oh,
right.
I did buy a country music because I was on a music. I shouldn't be on a music podcast. I was on Howard Kramer's music podcast where I had to come up with my favorite song of the last 3 months, Keith.
Oh,
Let me
fuck.
tell you, I had to look up what came out, and then I was like, oh,
I can't name one thing.
Miley Cyrus, Flowers. And you've heard it because you've been to a grocery store or a gas station, because it's playing all the time. And but Howard Kramer had a cowboy, a country music lady, and this name just sounds made up. Her name's Ashley McBride.
Yeah.
That sounds like that
Right.
doesn't sound real. So
Well, anyway, I heard a bunch of albums, and not one of them was Poison, Warrant, or Tesla. But okay, anyway, it was good. It was good to educate you. Holy shit, Jackie! Thank you so much for your time. You're fantastic as always.
lovely to be on. Thanks for having me.
By the way, we're going to be not recording all of next week, but we just recorded a shit ton for our VIP members. So if you miss us, keithandthegirl.com/VIP, get it for free. We recorded like 7 extra hours this week. It's bananas. keithandthegirl.com/VIP. If you'd like, get it for free, put in code free, and your whole week next week will be full of us. So get yourself full of us.
Beautiful. Stick around for a second if you have a minute, but I'm just going to close up.
Yes.
So your person's not here yet, right? Check it.
No,
this will take 30 seconds.
So it's fine. All good.
Okay.
I need to tell you that Pizza said great episode. I need to tell you that Broken Alice says what a delight. Thanks, Jackie.
Nice.
I need to tell you that Ryan V says super smart, funny guest. Mimi Cherry, great job and have an amazing day, everyone. Bad Beef says hit that like button. He also says great guest. Robinson, fun show, guys. And Pizza earlier said Carmen Diaz, ha ha ha. And I like to, let's see. Anna was very excited that you're Armenian, and lots of Mooney info on those cult shows on Netflix. I think I might look up Mooney, and I would like to meet your brother Phil. So thank you so much for listening. Make sure that